Hey everybody, Caelum here with another replay analysis as requested on the Learn Dota 2 subreddit. Once again, the Learn Dota 2 subreddit, a fantastic resource for all your Dota needs. You can get your questions answered, submit replays for analysis, or just really anything to help you get better and learn more about this game. So today we're going to be looking at Drake and his Invoker play. Now, truth be told, I'm not super great at Invoker, so I'm not going to be commenting on his item build, although his item build and item timings did look decent this game. What we're going to be focusing on is more of his laning stage, as well as how he used Invoker to fight, because Invoker is arguably the single best team fight hero in the game, only being countered by someone like a Silencer or a Rubik with Ag Scepter, since he can just throw every single spell Invoker casts right back at him. But other than that, I think it would be hard to say that there's a hero better than Invoker at team fighting. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop right in. Alright everybody, this is the first point I want to make real quick. As a mid, you should always be going for one of the extra bounty. You opted to wait middle and block the creeps, and the Alchemist meanwhile was able to get the bounty rune. So that's going to put you at a bit of a disadvantage here, and that's definitely not something you want, especially as an Invoker, because he is prone to a bad laning stage and a slow start, and then just a terrible game overall. So you should definitely attempt to go for the bounty rune. The offlane rune should be prioritized for your mid player and not your offlaner. I mean, it's great if they can get it, but it's definitely something the mid needs more than the offlaner. So we're just going to go through just a little bit. Here we're going to watch this laning stage on 2x speed while I go ahead and just talk about some of the things. I definitely liked the laning mechanics that you showed here against the Alchemist. It was definitely one of the better laning stages I've ever reviewed against an Alchemist, actually, so that was nice to see. The one thing I would recommend you work on is last hits under towers. You got forced out by Acid Spray, which is to be expected when you're playing against an Alchemist, but then the creep wave would be pushed onto your tower, and as we're seeing right now, you got none of these last hits. So definitely practice last hitting under tower is something I would recommend. Another thing that I noticed from your laning stage is looking for gank opportunities. You didn't leave the lane until about the 12-minute mark, and while that's okay on some heroes, Invoker can definitely take advantage of opportunity to gank, whether that be some sort of rune, or whether you force the Alchemist out for a little bit and just have the lane to yourself. Looking for ganking opportunities is very important. Like right here, Alchemist is forced out of the lane, and he doesn't come back for about another minute. So this would have been a good time to go on a gank. You're about to use the well here, which is fantastic. That's another thing I really liked about your laning. You actually utilized the wells, so that's nice. But like I said, always be looking for those gank opportunities. It really sets up your team to be in a better position, and since you are winning this lane against the Alchemist and he had left for quite some time, when you come back, even if you don't get anything done, you should have at least forced another hero out of the lane. And while your lane may be back to even, at least you've helped another lane to win theirs. So gank opportunities, definitely something you should be watching for. Alright, so this is the next point I wanted to make. We're at the 30-minute mark, as you can tell by the clock. You should really work on practicing your Yule's combos, Sunstrike Meatball combos. Throughout the course of the game, you hit very few of them, and if you don't have them down, it could lead into an awkward chasing situation like the one we're about to see. So the Sunstrike lands just a bit too early, so you were close but not quite enough, and then you actually weren't able to get this kill in the end. Lion is able to escape because of it, and it just ends up being not super great for you at all. Chaos Knight, no, sorry, not Chaos Knight, Centaur Warrunner manages to get away, but you unfortunately do die here. So, and that's all because you couldn't just finish the kill on the Lion with a quick Yule's combo. So be careful with that. Make sure that you are practicing your Yule's combos, that being Yule's Meatball Deafening Blast, or just Yule's Meatball Sunstrike, or even just Yule's Sunstrike, as we saw in that. You got close, but it didn't hit, and that was all the difference between a kill and your death. Alright, this next point I want to make is about smart movement. Here, we're just going to watch this through real quick and see what happens. You walk straight into Alchemist, who immediately stuns you, and because he's pretty farmed, he also has an Abyssal Blade. And then unlucky for you, he manages to get that first bash off, and then you're dead. So what I want to point out here is that you're walking into this area with no ward coverage no nothing. You have no idea who's down in here. Your Sven just ran up through their ancient camp and then into their jungle, but you still had no idea who was in there. If you're going to be walking into a dangerous place, like at this point in the game, the enemy jungle is a pretty dangerous place. You should always either have vision there or another hero to come with you to make sure that, well, what just happened doesn't happen. Now, unfortunately for you, you didn't have any supports this game, which means no one was going to want to buy wards, which unfortunately no one did. So it's unfortunate that you weren't able to have any vision in this area, but I mean, if there is no vision, you have to make smarter decisions about where you're going. Here you could have avoided a death by just not moving in this area. There's nothing for you to do in this area even. There wasn't a potential kill that you could have seen. There was safer places to farm if that's what you were trying to do. So just make sure you have smarter movement. This isn't an isolated incident in this game either. This was just the best example of how a sloppy move like that cost you a life. These next 4 points are going to be all about team fighting and how to team fight a little bit better with Invoker. So we're just going to watch this through, and I'm going to talk through a few things I think we could have done better in this scenario. So you hit a meatball, that's nice. He dies, and you've used Cold Snap. Now, you've only used 2 spells in that entire fight. You queue up a tornado and throw that, and that's kind of all you do until you guys are able to catch these heroes up here and use Sunstrike. You've used 4 spells in that amount of time. Used a lot more. There's so many useful spells in your kit, you need to make sure to use the majority of them. A large amount of problems from your team fighting this game came from bad positioning, not just from you, but as well as your lack of spell usage. There's plenty of very, very useful spells that weren't thrown out in that fight at all. You could have put Alacrity on the Sven earlier to make sure he could have killed the Medusa while she was sitting right here where Sniper is currently. You could have thrown EMP way at the beginning of the fight to make sure that even more damage was dealt to those heroes and they died quicker, which means you could have moved on to the other targets faster. You could have used Deafening Blast to reposition Alchemist back in front of your carries when you started moving up the hill at the beginning of the fight. Just little things like that that could have helped you out just a little bit. And especially since you have your Ag Scepter, it's very important to be throwing as many spells as you can. So I would recommend just practicing that. Maybe going into a bot match, just throwing a few spells around. It doesn't matter if you hit them, just get used to invoking spells very quickly. With this fight, I want to make sort of the same point as I did in the last fight. Mainly just the spell usage. So you throw Meatball, and then you just run away. So if we pause here for a second and go to free camera, you finally throw the tornado. There's 2 heroes super low down here. These 2 that are up in the air, they're pretty high health, and you've lost 1 hero, and that's kind of it. So I think the problem with what happened this fight is you got scared by the Medusa ult and you just ditched. You said, I'm out of here, see ya, I'm leaving. And that wasn't really the right call here. If you would have just turned your back and waited for the Medusa ult to run out, you would have been right in the, basically not the middle of the fight, but just far enough out so that you're able to effectively cast spells and do. Sniper's at very low health, but he was far back here. He was still able to get some good shots off on Medusa as well as Alchemist and Bristleback, who are chasing you guys now. And if you would have stayed a little bit closer, basically where the Bristleback and Alchemist are now, if you would have just turned your back instead of running completely away, you would have had the opportunity to, I don't know, do so much stuff. Deafening Blast, drop an EMP, throw your Tornado. I mean, you did that anyway, but just an example. Here's another fight where I just want to point out the lack of spells. You throw Tornado at Medusa exclusively, you get stunned by her ult, and then you kind of just run around for a little bit. You eventually cast Deafening Blast there, but then you just leave. Invoker has so many spells, so 2 of them in this amount of time. You guys all end up dying, which is unfortunate, but the amount of spells you're casting is no good. you're casting like 2 or 3 spells a fight and then either running or dying. You really should be casting more, especially 60 minutes in the game with an Aghanim Scepter and Octarine Core. Your spell's cooldown is so low, it's actually insane. So like I said earlier, just go into a bot match, go into a training match, anything. Just level yourself up to level 25, give yourself an Ag Scepter, and just cast spells. Just practice on quickly casting spells. Alright, with this next fight, I actually did like your multi-spell usage. You use 3 pretty quickly to take out Medusa, which is good, but then I also want to point out your not so great positioning here. So we have Tornado, Meatball, which is just a little bit behind, and then Deafening Blast, which is good. But then you come running up the hill, and you're way too close to these guys here. I mean, granted, you didn't know they were there, and there was no way for you to know that they were there, but still, you shouldn't have been that close to the action anyway. Medusa was already dead, there was no need for you to be right up in her face at any point in that engagement. So just work on keeping your distance, I guess, would be a good point to take away from this. If you don't need to be right next to a target, don't be. Invoker's fantastic because, as I said earlier, he's a fantastic team fighter that doesn't need to be right up in everybody's face to deal damage, like someone like Luna or Phantom Assassin. They have to be like right in the thick of it for their work done. With this fight, I'm sure you're tired of me saying this, but once again, I just want to go over spell usage and how it could have been a lot better here. You cast a Tornado, which is good. You throw down the Meatball, which once again is late, so like I said, practice on those combos, and then now you're just running around. You finally invoked Deafening Blast after like 3 seconds of running around. You're stunned, so you can't really do anything. You're just running away. You're not invoking any spells. You finally re-invoke Tornado, which still has 4 seconds on cooldown. You throw it. You invoke EMP, which could have been invoked way earlier prior to the Tornado. You cast Ghost Walk, and then just run away. So you did better with the amount of spells you attempted to cast and throw in that fight, but overall, there's still the problem of it's not fast enough and it's not efficient. You invoke Tornado with 4 seconds left on it, which isn't bad, but in that time you could have invoked EMP, thrown the EMP, invoked Tornado, and thrown it at the back lines to make sure that this Lion and Alchemist couldn't have been here by now, letting the EMP completely wreck Bristleback and Monkey King. It's just little things like that that can help you to become a better Invoker. Better spell usage, better fight decision making. It's definitely a lot to think about and a lot to go over, but those things will help you. And it's hard to get at first, it definitely is. The first couple times I played Invoker, I was absolutely terrible. I think I used Cold Snap Sunstrike, and that was literally all I could do. But as you continue to practice and as you continue to play, you just need to focus on more spells and more efficient spell usage. Alright everybody, once again, this has been Caelum with another replay analysis. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video or found it informative, there's plenty more like this on my channel. Go ahead and check them out. Once again, this was requested on the r/LearnDota2 subreddit, a fantastic place to go for resources, for learning resources about this game. Go ahead and check it out. I'll have a link to the subreddit down in the description. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.